let's talk about Lahmajun. Welcome back to Sprung On Food. I'm your host, Kae Sprung. This season, we're talking about favorite foods, the history behind it, and the role it plays in the world today. Joining me today is actor and comedian Artoun Nazareth. Artoun, welcome.
Hey, happy to be here.
Well, I'm very happy that you are here. You are a hilarious person, but I was so delighted that you chose the food that you did because I will confess, I really didn't know much about it at all. So this was very educational on my part, but I have to know from your standpoint, why is this your favorite food? What is your relationship to it? Tell me all the things.
Tell you everything. So growing up, I had a lot of Armenian foods. My mom and my grandma made a point of making a lot of Armenian food. And the mass appeal of some Armenian foods is not great for a child. They're stuffed peppers with a bunch of spices and meats and, or grape leaves wrapped in stuff that now as an adult I love and I cherish. But as a child, you're like, what is that weird thing? Why do all my friends get to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and I'm eating grape leaves stuffed with meat? But Lahmajun, or as I would tell my friends, Armenian pizza was it was funny. I'm it's both marketable as a child to other children, and it's very tasty. So I, from a young age, always liked it. It's something we always had in our freezer. So it was also it's weird to call it a Lunchable because it's not really a Lunchable, but
yeah.
It is the sense of oh, we got nothing, let's heat up a Lahmajun. And you can kind of, spruce it up however you like, right? A little squeeze of lemon, you could wrap some stuff in there. And it's not, as opposed to, let's say, an Italian pizza or an American pizza, there's no cheese involved unless you're putting string cheese or halloumi or whatever you want in there. But it's basically just a flatbread with meat and spices. It's super tasty. But cucumbers in there if you want a little fresher for summer. You can fold it differently. You can fold it in half or in quarters, or you can roll it up. So just a super fun, versatile food that I even now try to keep in my freezer. Always a good lunch. Doesn't feel super heavy, super tasty. And whenever you show it to people, they're like, this is great. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. So it's been ever present in your life growing up. Are there any places, if nobody's making it themselves, that deserve a shout out, maybe a go-to spot that serves it?
Totally. I'd say if you're in the LA area, that's kind of, well, and I can talk briefly to the East Coasters. If you're in the LA area, Sasun Bakery makes great lahmacun, and I would recommend that. If you're on the East Coast, if you're in New York, take the A up to
we got
George
trains
Washington
and everything.
Bridge.
This is great.
So,
Okay.
take the subway up to the George Washington bus terminal. Hop on MJ Transit and go all the way to Patterson, and then go to Nuri's Cafe. Great lahmacun.
Oh my God.
It's gonna take a couple hours, but there's definitely places in New York that have lahmacun somewhere, but that's just where my family would get it, in New Jersey.
So you have family that are over there?
In Jersey, yes.
Okay, okay. Because I was like, this is very specific that we did not talk about this before recording, that you just knew this. You just had it at the forefront of your mind and was like, and then you want to transfer over to this train and take a right at this corner. Okay, so this is a spot then that, yes, if you're visiting family, this is the go-to place. With Okay, everybody forget Google Maps. You just got all your directions right there. That's amazing. And any difference of variation in the two, East Coast, West Coast, even though they're not native to America? Is there any variation between the two? They're just kind of doing their own thing.
Everyone's kind of just doing their own thing. Usually, I'd say they're similar. It always kind of, it ends up being how thin is the bread versus how thick is it. Some people like a thicker lahmacun and other people like a super thin, super easy lahmacun. And so I like a thin one. And I think here they make a thin one. And in Armenia, if you go to Armenia, they do super thin. It's almost not see-through, but you can eat 2 or 3 in Armenia and you feel as if it's the same as one East Coast one. East Coast ones are a little bit thicker, which I still like, but it's more of all right, strap in, nice thick piece of bread versus, and when I say thick, it's still a thin thick.
Yes.
We're talking thin versus thin thick. No thick. Yeah.
Right, right. The thicker of the thinnest is what
Yes.
they're doing. Yeah, they're trying to give you something maybe a little bit more substantial here on the East Coast, or like it's the
Because of the
US, it's the East Coast. Yeah,
winters,
we want to keep
you
you
know.
warm and fed. So
Yeah.
I get it. So it's very apropos to the region.
Mm.
Okay, but great to know that we've got places on both coasts that people can go and visit and that you frequent. So this is amazing. And of course, to better understand and appreciate our food, we've got to know where it came from. Let's take a moment to appreciate the poetry of the flatbread. Humble, round, but don't be fooled. Some of the world's most important dishes ride on flatbread. Think pizza, menaish, naan, tacos, roti. They're all vehicles of flavor and culture. Now let's introduce another flatbread with a long, complicated, and delicious past, lahmajun. Often called the Armenian pizza or Turkish pizza, lahmacun is one of those foods that both is beloved and misunderstood. It's caught in a culinary tug-of-war between nations, communities, and diasporas, each of whom claims it as their own. So let's explore the story of lahmacun, one of migration, memory, survival, and flavor. Now, as mentioned, you might hear lahmacun lovingly called Armenian pizza or Turkish pizza, but make no mistake, this isn't a cousin of pepperoni or mozzarella. The pizza nickname is a bit of a clever culinary PR that popped up in diaspora communities, trying to explain this beloved flatbread to Western audiences. It looks round, it's topped with stuff, it goes in a hot oven, sure, we'll call it pizza. Armenian Americans started using the term in places like Los Angeles and Boston, where in Europe, like Germany and the Netherlands, Turkish immigrants popularized Turkish pizza at doner shops. It was a shortcut for the unfamiliar, a way to say, trust us, you want this. But here's the kicker. Lahmacun predates Italian pizza by centuries. So maybe, just maybe, pizza should be called Italian lahmacun. Artoun, I'm sure that's very controversial, but what do you think
No, I
about
like it.
maybe calling it that instead?
I like that. That's good. That's good. We got to flip the script. The Italians have had it good for too long, and it's time that, they get put in their place.
Watch out, here comes Italian lahmacun.
Exactly. No, I love that. I mean, yeah, it is definitely very controversial. It's funny how food can it's not it both is funny and it's interesting how food can be so controversial. Especially I don't know if I'm sure you seem like you're one of the most well-prepared podcast hosts I've ever seen.
Boy,
all
oh
your
boy, I don't know. Time will
pronunciations
tell. Let's see.
your pronunciations are fantastic.
Bless you.
But yeah, it's an interesting history, and it is, Armenia and Turkey have a very fraught relationship still to this day, especially, recently, I'd say within the last 5 years, there's been a lot of extra tension with Azerbaijan and Armenia and the Nagorno-Karabakh region. And, Azerbaijan and Turkey are very close allies, and it's all part of that ethno-Turkic, state and their population. And so it is I feel like some people will have even hummus, right? Israeli hummus, Lebanese hummus, it always feels fraught when in reality it is this has been in the region for thousands of years. And, who's the first, who's whatever. I'm like, it's so predates a lot of that. Something interesting, and I don't know, maybe you have more of this, is so I'm sure you have more. And I'm like,
yes.
maybe I just
Wouldn't it be funny if I was like the end of the episode? Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, no, I'm sure you have more. So I don't want to jump the gun on any of the
No,
fact
yeah,
or
it's
anything.
okay. Yeah, we can leave this as a little foreshadowing, or I mean, you're welcome to say whatever you'd like. But yes, there is much more to come.
Yeah. Let's see what else you've got cooked up here,
Okay.
And then I'll jump in again.
Oh, fabulous. Yes. And please do. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, lahmacun is deceptively simple. A thin flatbread spread with seasoned meat topping, usually lamb or beef, often mixed with tomatoes, onions, garlic, parsley, and spices like paprika, cumin, and Aleppo pepper. It's baked in a hot oven. Traditionalists will swear by a stone or wood-fired oven and served piping hot, either flat or rolled like an edible scroll. It's common to top with a squeeze of lemon, a sprig of parsley, sliced onions, maybe pickled vegetables. It's handheld, fast, filling, and if made right to some, simply perfect. But don't let the simplicity fool you. Like many enduring dishes, lahmacun is more than the sum of its ingredients. It's an edible archive of centuries of trade, empire, migration, and culinary evolution. It's a dish that's traveled and endured, and the name comes from Arabic. Artoun, do you know what it translates to?
If I'm not mistaken, in Arabic, lahme or lahm is meat. So
Uh-huh.
I don't necessarily know the Jun part, but I'm imagining it's meat pie or meat bread. No, bread is khubz in
Okay.
Arabic. So it'd be like meat something.
Yeah. Well, listen, you're nailing it. You're more than halfway there. It's meat dough. So
Dough. Oh,
yeah,
so
yeah.
close.
But now listen, now you know. So you keep that in your arsenal.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. It's straightforward, it's to the point, but the story behind it isn't as simple. To understand where Lahmajun comes from, we have to rewind the clock way, way back, like Babylon back. Flatbreads themselves are among the oldest human-made foods. Archaeological evidence from Göbekli Tepe and Çatalhöyük, two Neolithic sites in modern-day Turkey, suggest that early humans were mixing grains with water and baking them on hot stones over 10,000 years ago. These early breads didn't contain yeast and were likely tough and dense, more like a modern lavash or tortilla than a fluffy pita. But the key here is the base, dough as a blank canvas. It's culinary technology that spread across the ancient world like wildfire. Artoun, I know we're just kind of getting into our story, but would you have guessed that one of the origins of this main component dates back to over 10,000 years ago?
I mean, that's a long time. I would
It's a
say
long
like
time.
it's impressive that bread was being made of any sort at that time. Yeah, but it does make sense. In some ways it's like I think once you have bread, you're putting something on it, right? You're like bread is good. Bread's fine on its own.
Sure,
Bread's
sure.
good. People
Yeah.
like bread. But even a little like, anything. I like my bread with a little something on it. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
10,000 years ago, we're still the same. We haven't evolved that much, right? Those people are
Yes.
like, this is good, but it needs something.
Yeah.
So it makes
10,000
sense.
year olds. They're just like us.
They're just
Totally.
like us.
Uh-huh. Now, here's where things start to come together. Ancient Mesopotamians living between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what's now Iraq and parts of Syria and Turkey had a dish that bears some resemblance to lahmacun. There are Babylonian clay tablets dating back to 1750 BCE that describe recipes involving mincemeat and spices served over flatbread. Now, to know for sure if this was similar to the lahmacun we know today, fortunately, there's no one to ask who's alive to verify this, but if nothing else, they were certainly ancestral cousins. The spread of empires, Akkadians, Assyrian, Hittite, Persian, and later Arab and Ottoman meant that centuries of techniques and ingredients flowed through trade routes like the Silk Road. Ideas like spiced meat, dough, fire, they converged in ways that set the stage for lahmacun. But here's the real tipping point: the Columbian Exchange. Tomatoes, red peppers, and chili, the holy trinity of lahmacun toppings, were native to the Americas and didn't arrive in the Middle East until the 16th century. And you would know that if you've listened to the History of Tomatoes episode of Sprung On Food. And if you haven't, you can check it out on YouTube or available wherever you get your podcasts.
Beautiful plug. Beautiful
Yes.
plug.
You gotta let the people know. Now, once these ingredients made it over, they transformed the region's culinary profile from Ottoman kitchens to Arab homes to Armenian bakeries. That tomato onion chili base, it's a relatively modern innovation layered on top of ancient technique. So while the practice of placing meat on dough is certainly not new, the specific combination that defines modern lahmacun most likely took shape during the 17th and 19th centuries in the overlapping cultural spaces of southeastern Anatolia, northern Syria, and parts of Armenia. Okay, so Artoun,
You blew my
oh,
mind with this
oh,
tomatoes thing, and clearly I need to go back and listen to this episode. Guys,
okay.
we all got to listen to this tomatoes episode
Thank you.
because I think what's so surprising to me is tomatoes and peppers are both used so much in modern day Armenian cuisine. Honestly, so much in modern day, like I'd say just Middle Eastern cuisine as well. Like peppers
Yeah.
are huge.
Mm.
And so I'm like, 16th century, it's
Yeah.
not native. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's wild.
And then especially too when you think about how prevalent it is in Italian cooking, Indian cooking,
Oh
and
yeah.
yes, it was certainly not native and a little, not a spoily, but just a little tidbit. Most people were very, very apprehensive about this fruit. We're kind of like, get it the hell out of here. I'm not sure what's happening. So to be able to accept and introduce a new and foreign food product, and then it becomes so prevalent today is kind of wild.
It's pretty wild. I'm like, I mean, I don't think we've reached the end of, the discovery of food, but it is like, now that we've reached a stage of globalization, I don't think there will be anything that's that level of shock anymore necessarily. Who's to say?
Right. Right.
But like, I guess also, so if you're living on the coast or you're living in any sort of metropolitan city, I'd say you have the opportunity to pretty much taste any sort of cuisine that you want, right? Like, there's always going to be someone who's migrated there and is bringing their home cuisine with them. But if you're somewhere where, like, let's say Ethiopian food, right? That's something that I tried for the first time maybe just a few years ago.
Wow.
It was fantastic. And it's like a whole different experience. But it's like, yeah, if you've never had that, you're like, I am suspicious about this. So it's just a large piece of bread and everything goes on top of it. And then we just eat it with our hands. And I don't recognize any of the components here, but it's phenomenal.
Yeah, super delicious. I mean, and I think that's what discovery in all facets of life are, just the unknown. It's kind of like, oh, maybe, am I scared of this? Am I intrigued? A little bit of both. And all it takes is one brave soul to be able to try it, because there are so many different ingredients and things like that are not safe to eat and could be poisonous and toxic. And then, one misstep and then see ya.
You're cooked.
Yeah. Well, this is where cultural lines start to blur and debates begin. If you search for Lahmajun recipes online, you'll often see it with slightly different spellings and called either Turkish pizza or Armenian pizza, depending on the site. So who really owns it? Well, short answer, nobody and everybody. The dish we call lahmacun emerged in regions where cultures intermingled under the rule of the Ottoman Empire, which at its height spanned from North Africa to Eastern Europe to the Caucasus. Within that empire lived Armenians, Turks, Kurds, Arabs, Assyrians, Greeks, and others, often in the same towns, sharing bakeries, ovens, and recipes. In cities like Gaziantep, Urfa, Diyarbakir, and Aleppo, it was common for Armenians and Muslim communities to prepare spiced meat mixtures at home and take them to a local baker who would roll out the dough and bake the lahmacun in a wood-fired oven. No one had put their claim on it, it just showed up on every table. That said, Armenians, especially in the diaspora, have held tightly to lahmacun as a cultural touchstone. After the devastating Armenian genocide in 1915, many survivors fled to Lebanon, Syria, and eventually to Europe and North America. They brought lahmacun with them, baking it in Armenian church kitchens, freezing it for family gatherings, and passing down recipes by hand. For many diaspora Armenians, lahmacun is far more than a meal. It's an act of cultural survival. It's a taste of home when home may no longer exist. Meanwhile, in modern Turkey, lahmacun is hugely popular, sold in street stalls, restaurants, and takeout shops across the country. It's often served with a glass of ayran and eaten rolled up with parsley and onions. The Turkish Ministry of Culture and Tourism has even officially listed lahmacun as part of Turkey's intangible cultural heritage. So who's right? Again, both and neither exclusively. Lahmacun is a shared culinary artifact. Like hummus, dolma, and baklava, it reflects centuries of cross-cultural exchange that no single modern nation-state can claim as wholly their own. Artoun, have you ever tried any lahmacun from any other cultures or communities?
Not to my knowledge. There's a chance I have, and I wouldn't necessarily know it. I bet it's one of those things where, I mean, I'm going to be biased. I want to go Armenia.
Sure.
But I'm sure it's similar and, but yeah, I can't. The thing is as you mentioned, I think if I were to try it, it would be more likely to have been in Europe and or modern day Turkey versus I feel the lahmacun being served mainly right now in like LA and New York, where there's big Armenian diaspora, is probably coming from Armenians. But yeah, I mean, oh my God, your research is just so on point. I'm just very impressed.
Oh, well, thank you.
And
Thank you.
To make history even a bit personal here, you mentioned Gaziantep, which before the Armenian genocide would have just been known as Aintab, is like that region. So whenever the modern day Turkey or Azerbaijan or the Ottoman Empire, whenever they would conquer a city or they would take a city. This is, you can think of how Constantinople and Istanbul, they like to change the name to make it, they say this is what this place is called now. A lot of, and this is not exclusive to the Ottoman Empire. Lots of nations and cultures do this, but so the name is changed. But Aintab is historically where my family is from in that region. And then during the Armenian genocide, the members of my family who survived moved to Syria, to Aleppo, and then from there to Lebanon. And so it is so interesting to me that Lahmajun specifically, like one of the two regions where it was becoming popular, and this is the regions where it was, is the places where my family had to escape. And, that is their taking of these recipes that they had there and bringing it along with them. So it does feel like, it feels interesting how like it can feel so personal in that way. How food is, it is personal. It is,
yeah.
It's history, yeah.
Yeah, it is personal. There's culture, there's history, there are memories tied to it. And then I think what's special is that as time goes on and more people become aware of these foods and get to experience them themselves, like you just got to eat Ethiopian food not too long ago, I feel like it almost brings kind of like, in a very trying time, like cultural unity in some way, even if it's just via food.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a food that I always am happy to share with people because it's like all the components can be familiar a little bit on their own, but like it is rarely are you getting the pizza of it all, to try to make it explain it to people. It rarely is a pizza that you're getting from a pizzeria or something similar to that. Honestly, probably it is very unique in that sense of it's just a thin piece of bread with a thin piece of meat paste essentially crumbled over it. And it's just a really tasty little dish.
So we touched on the components, but let's dive a little bit deeper and talk about the process, because making lahmacun is more than just cooking, it's craftsmanship. The dough, soft, elastic, and rolled out thin, sometimes as thin or thinner than a tortilla, enough to crisp, but not so fragile that it falls apart under the topping. Traditionally, it's made with just flour, water, salt, and a bit of oil. Some add yeast, others don't. The topping, finely ground meat, usually lamb or beef, mixed with a paste of onions, garlic, tomatoes, red bell peppers, parsley, and pepper paste. The spice blend often includes Aleppo peppers, cumin, paprika, sometimes a touch of cinnamon or sumac for brightness. In some regions, they add pomegranate molasses for a sweet sour tang, or a pinch of allspice for a deeper Levantine warmth. Once assembled, the lahmacun goes into a scorching hot oven, traditionally a tandoor or wood-fired brick oven, and cooks in just a few minutes. The high heat crisps the dough, caramelizes the edges of the meat, and fuses all the flavors together. In many neighborhoods, especially in places like Aleppo, Beirut, or Istanbul, there are still community bakeries where people bring their own toppings and dough, and the baker assembles and cooks the lahmacun for a small fee. It's a social ritual, and for some, a daily one. Artoun, I don't know. Does any place like this exist anywhere near you where people can kind of DIY-ish their own thing?
I have never been to a DIY thing, though the thought of it is fantastic. I love it. Also, you just describing this, my mouth is watering. I'm
boy, yeah.
I'm hungry. I hope if you're listening to this, you're driving on your way to go pick up some lahmacun right now.
Or taking the A train up.
Or taking the A train up. But yeah, I love the idea of a community oven. Look, I'm a big community guy. I'm let's start bringing community back, right? It's enough of these huge mega corporations. We don't need to go get our food from Domino's. Let's start, we bring the Domino's to a local pizzeria or, whatever. And we work together. I feel like I read somewhere recently, and maybe you've covered this, but with soy sauce,
not yet. Not soy sauce yet. Nobody has said my favorite food is soy sauce. But I don't yuck anybody's yum, so they are welcome. If there's anybody listening who's a future guest, you're welcome to bring that to the table.
Yeah, it's a great it's a sauce, a food.
Yes, like a condiment, but a marinade. It's so many. It could be so many things, but yes. But you're not fork and knifing
you're not fork and knifing soy sauce. Yeah. But it would be that I read somewhere that they would whoever in the town was making the soy sauce would ferment it and craft it, and it would be in a barrel, and you would just bring your like jar or whatever you're using to contain it, and they would like scoop it up and give it to that person in the village or whoever it was. It's like how soy sauce initially was starting out. And I'm like, God, that's good. Isn't that good? You got your local soy sauce guy or girl. And they're making
anybody. It's the 90s. Yeah.
Anybody, it's the 90s. Yeah. So
well, maybe, I mean, I don't know. Do you have it in you to make this potentially a personal endeavor and project?
Bring me your meats and I'll flatbread it. Look,
I don't know.
I've got a lot on my plate.
Okay.
But I think this is what, like, you know, it's like, what am I going to do when I retire? Look, if am successful enough, I have a little backyard area with a couple of ovens. I'm like 70. You can kind of picture it. I spend my mornings picking fruit and kind of drinking some coffee, knock on the door. Someone there. It's a guy who I know. They live down the street. They've brought me a meat mixture. I say, come on in. I give them a little bit of coffee as well.
Yes, of course.
We talk. I toss in I heat up their lahmajuns. We come out. We play a game of backgammon.
Oh.
I send them on their way. I smile wistfully, and then the sun sets.
Oh, wow. You've just painted such a beautiful picture. I mean, listen, you can go ahead and start trademarking, registering this idea now, and, you know, keep it cozy and save it for many, many years down the road. But I mean, sounds kind of lovely.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
It's something to look forward to down the road.
I love that. Yes. Well, Lahmajun has traveled by ship, by train, by suitcase. In Armenian communities in Los Angeles, Boston, and Paris, it's become a beloved comfort food. Frozen versions are sold in some Armenian and Middle Eastern markets, and recipes are passed down through generations, sometimes guarded like state secrets. In Lebanon and Syria, lahmajun has long been part of local food culture, sometimes seasoned with more chili or even citrus zest for a Levantine twist. In Israel, Iraq, and Egypt, similar meat-topped breads exist under different names, reflecting this similar history. Today, you can find lahmajun in global cities like New York, London, LA, and Toronto. And one thing is clear, the dish has staying power, and it's not going anywhere. Lahmajun may look simple, but it's layered with history and meaning. For diaspora Armenians, it's a symbol of cultural resilience. For Syrians displaced by war, it's a taste of pre-conflict life. For Turks, it's part of everyday cuisine. It's a food that serves as a case study in how dishes travel, evolve, and connect people across time and geography. In a world that wants its food to come with a certificate of authenticity, lahmajun's out here proving that real food evolves, travels, and adapts to survive. So the next time you hear lahmajun called Armenian or Turkish pizza, you can teach them about the story of ancient bread, Ottoman ovens, diaspora kitchens, and the extraordinary journey of the dish. Artoun, what do you think about the backstory of lahmajun?
I love it. It's a story of resilience. It's a story of survival. To the Armenian part of it, that like resilient survival, it feels like that dish is tied with what it means to be Armenian for the diaspora. You can take away where we are, but you can't take away who we are. And that feels like lahmajun, right? It's how it's existing in all these new places. Feels the same as how Armenians have popped up and exist in all these places that they previously didn't in so many numbers. So it's in some ways, it's beautiful. And also the fact that it's an ancient dish also speaks to that as well, right? Armenia is one of the few nations that has ancient history still, you know, much like the Chinese and the Mongols and like all these other nations, like there's some people still speak Assyrian to this day, but like Assyria, it just no longer exists as Assyria, right? It's modern day Iran or Iraq or same as Mesopotamia, Babylon, all of these old parts of the ancient world. But Armenia's endured, and in that way it feels nice. I'm like, Armenia's endured, lahmajun's endured through all this time. It's very poetic in some ways and beautiful. And I love hearing the story. And you did such a good job.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm going to take that soundbite and use that everywhere. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Well, while it's not being splashed all over headlines yet, Lahmajun has still made its way into pop culture moments. In 2018, in Elazig, Turkey, over 20 chefs worked together to craft a lahmacun, aiming for a national recognition and a Guinness attempt. Artoun, do you want to take a guess of, they made it not so much circular, but more kind of elongated. Do you want to take a guess of how long this lahmacun was?
25 meters long?
25 meters long? Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, by Price is Right rules, you win, and you're not that far off. But it's 34 meters or 112 feet. And for just added context, that would be a bit more than 11 basketball hoops lined up. So
wow.
Pretty long.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah. In March 2020, Kim Kardashian, celebrating her Armenian heritage, posted an Instagram video calling lahmacun, in quotes, our Armenian pizza, saying that her father would always put string cheese on it. Artoun, I know that you had said that at the very beginning. Have you ever eaten lahmacun the Robert Kardashian way?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've eaten it so many. It's sometimes you just, whatever's in the fridge, you're tossing on the lahmacun. And yeah, Armenian string cheese is a staple in Armenian households. And so you're tossing that on lahmacun, you're tossing it on menaish, you're eating it just as is.
Yeah, it's and just another fun little tidbit and an additional plug. Armenian string cheese gets a little bit of a shout out in another episode, a history of string cheese. So that's another fun one. Yeah.
Listen in. Like, comment, and subscribe. 5 stars only.
Yeah, let's get that engagement going.
Let's get that engagement going.
Hell yeah. Well, and today, Instagram and TikTok show over 834,000 posts tagged lahmacun. Artoun, can you think of any other pop culture moments or any final words that you have about your favorite food?
Pop culture moments, no. Though, one day when I have my big Armenian TV show sitcom, look out, because it's going to be prevalent in there, right? It's going to be lunchtime. We're going to be having all kinds of episodes with lahmacun.
Oh my God, is this an exclusive?
No, don't hold your breath. This isn't coming out anytime soon.
You don't know this.
We're going to manifest. I don't know this. That's true. Manifest. We're manifesting.
Yes.
And that's kind of it. I'd say if you haven't tried it and you're able to, if you can find, really it's any sort of Middle Eastern bakery will probably have it. But if you're in LA, super easy. The Armenian community is enormous here. East Coast, I'd say find a Middle Eastern baker, especially if you can find one that's like Lebanese, Syrian. Those are kind of the more in that similar region. But Lebanese, Syrian bakers or grocery stores, you will usually have some maybe frozen or fresh. And I'd say give it a try.
Thank you so much for joining me to talk about your love of lahmacun and helping me to tell its story.
Of course. Thank you for having me. This has been absolutely fantastic, wonderful. It's been my honor.
Thanks for watching. You can find links and more info in the description below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. See you next time.